All right, you gelatinous globs of protoplasm, line up and prepare for your annual fitness assessment. Coach Zor's voice boomed across the anti-gravity gymnasium, causing ripples of terror to spread through the assembled group of alien students. The Galactic Federation High School's physical education class was about to begin, and not a single being in that room was looking forward to it well, except for one. Woohoo, let's do this. A lone human voice rang out, filled with entirely too much enthusiasm for 0800 hours on a zillion morning. Every eye stalk, sensory tendril, and gelatinous pseudopod swiveled to stare at the source of that outburst. Standing there, grinning like a maniac, was Sarah Chen, an exchange student from that backwater death trap called Earth. Coach Zor's tentacles twitched in irritation. Ah, yes, our special guest, the sarcasm in his voice could have corroded durasteel. I don't suppose you'd like to go first and show these sniveling invertebrates how it's done. Sarah's grin, if possible, grew even wider. Heck yeah, what are we starting with? Laps, obstacle course, or maybe some of that weird tentacle wrestling you guys do? A chorus of groans erupted from the alien students. Gloater, an amorphous blob of semi-sentient slime, burbled miserably, by the cosmic custodian, she's going to get us all killed. SL's eye stalks narrowed dangerously. Very well, Earthling. Let's start with something simple, shall we? A little warm-up jog around the gym. 10 laps should do it. The coach's mandibles clicked in what passed for a smirk among his species. He was certain this would put the upstart human in her place, after all. The gym was roughly the size of a small moon. Sarah, however, just nodded eagerly. Cool. Any particular gravity setting you want? Zorx blinked all 7 of his eyes in rapid succession. Gravity setting? Yes, Sarah bounced on her toes, looking far too chipper. I mean, we're in an anti-grav gym, right? So we can simulate different planetary conditions. What we going for? Mars? Jupiter? Ooh, how about neutron star? The coach's tentacles tied themselves in knots as he sputtered. W what? No, just standard gravity. Go. Sarah shrugged, still grinning. All right, if you insist. See you in a bit. And with that, she took off running. The assembled alien students watched in a mixture of horror and fascination as the human lapped the enormous gym once, twice, 3 times. By the 5th lap, Gloater had oozed into a puddle of despair. We're doomed, it gurgled. Doomed, I tell you. Nearby, Zix 427, a crystalline being from the silicon-based life sector, chimed in agreement. Indeed, I calculate a 87% probability that the Earth beast will cause our imminent demise. Sarah, completely oblivious to the existential crisis she was causing, continued her run. She'd broken into a light sweat, but showed no signs of slowing down. Coach Zor's eye stalks were twitching so violently they threatened to detach. Enough. He finally bellowed as Sarah completed her 10th lap. That's quite sufficient. The human jogged to a stop, barely out of breath. Oh, really? I was just getting warmed up. What's next? The coach's tentacles writhed in frustration. Next we have the obstacle course. A collective gasp rose from the alien students. The obstacle course was legendary, a harrowing gauntlet of anti-gravity zones, laser grids, and gelatinous barriers that had sent many a student to the infirmary. Sarah's eyes lit up. Sweet. I love obstacle courses. This is going to be just like that Ninja Warrior show back home. As the human bounced excitedly towards the starting line, Gloater oozed closer to Zix 427. What's a ninja? It burbled quietly. The crystalline being's facets shimmered in the equivalent of a shrug. My databanks have no information on this ninja concept. Perhaps it is some form of a birth-death cult. Meanwhile, Coach Zor was outlining the rules. You have 10 minutes to complete the course. Failure to finish results in automatic remedial physical education for the rest of the solar cycle. Begin on my mark, go. Sarah took off like a shot, leaping into the first anti-gravity zone with a whoop of joy. The alien students watched, mandibles agape, as she navigated the shifting gravimetric fields with ease. How is she doing that? Gloater bubbled in awe. Zix 427's crystalline structure vibrated in analysis. It appears the human is using the variable gravity fields to propel herself forward. Fascinating and terrifying. Sarah bounded through laser grids, rolled under plasma barriers, and swan dove through gelatinous obstacles that had stymied countless alien students before her. All the while, she was laughing like a lunatic. Woo. This is better than the water park back home. She shouted as she surfed a wave of anti-gravity. Coach Zor's eye stalks were practically tied in knots. Impossible, he muttered. Simply impossible. As Sarah approached the final obstacle, a sheer wall of frictionless material meant to be utterly unclimbable, the alien students held their breath, those that had breath to hold anyway. Sarah didn't even slow down. She hit the wall at a run, her momentum carrying her several meters up its surface. Just as gravity began to reassert its hold, she pushed off, twisting in midair, to grab a tiny imperfection in the wall's surface. From there she climbed with inhuman speed, reaching the top in seconds. Time, Sarah called out as she vaulted over the top of the wall. How'd I do, Coach? Coach Zor's tentacles were trembling as he checked the chronometer. 3 minutes and 27 seconds, he stammered. That's a new course record by about 7 minutes. A stunned silence fell over the gym, broken only by Sarah's excited, "Awesome. So what's next?" The coach's eye stalks drooped in defeat. Next we have strength testing. If Zor thought this might finally be the human's downfall, he was sorely mistaken. Sarah approached the gravity-augmented weightlifting station with the same boundless enthusiasm she'd shown for everything else. "Cool. How does this work?" she asked, eyeing the strange contraption. Zor explained through gritted mandibles. "You simply attempt to lift progressively heavier weights until you reach your limit. We'll start you at the beginner level, of course." Sarah nodded, took her position, and waited for the coach's signal. When it came, she gripped the bar and lifted only to nearly throw it through the ceiling. "Whoops," she exclaimed, hastily setting the weight back down. "Sorry about that. I guess I don't know my own strength in this gravity." The coach's eye stalks twitched violently. Perhaps we should try a more advanced setting." What followed was a display of strength that would have made a Krogan weightlifter weep with envy. Sarah lifted weight after weight, each one theoretically impossible for a being of her size and mass. The alien students watched in a mixture of awe and horror. Gloater had long since fainted, collapsing into a quivering puddle of goo. 6427's crystalline structure was vibrating at a frequency that threatened to shatter every window in the gymnasium. Is that all you've got?" Sarah asked, barely breaking a sweat as she set down a weight that could have crushed a small moon. Coach Zor's tentacles were a tangled mess. I think that will be quite sufficient for today's assessment," he managed to stammer out. Sarah's face fell in disappointment. "Oh, really? But we haven't even got to the fun stuff yet. What about that tentacle wrestling I heard about? Or zero-G dodgeball, or that game with the plasma balls and the black hole?" The coach's eye stalk swiveled wildly, looking for an escape. "I'm afraid those activities are temporarily unavailable." "Yes, that's it. Maintenance issues. Very unfortunate." Sarah's shoulders slumped. "Oh, bummer. Well, I guess there's always next time, right?" The very thought sent a shudder through every alien present as the human bounded off to the locker rooms, humming cheerfully. The stunned silence in the gym was broken by a quiet, terrified voice. "Coach?" It was Gloater, who had partially reconstituted itself. "Is it true what they say, that the human comes from a death world?" Coach Zor's tentacles drooped in defeat. "I'm afraid so, Gloater. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. The gravity alone would crush most species in the Federation." Zix 427 chimed in, its crystalline structure still vibrating with residual terror. "But surely the Galactic Education Board would not send such a dangerous creature to our school. It must violate countless safety protocols." The coach's eye stalk swiveled to fix the crystal being with a baleful glare. "Oh, they had their reasons. Something about promoting interspecies understanding and broadening our cosmic perspective." "Bah. If you ask me, they're all suffering from space madness." Just then, Sarah burst back out of the locker room, still full of energy. "Hey, Coach, I was thinking since class is over early, maybe we could organize a little game, for fun." The assembled aliens recoiled in horror at the mere thought of what the human might consider fun. Coach Zor's tentacles tied themselves in knots as he frantically searched for an excuse. "I'm afraid that won't be possible, Earth student. We have important Federation-mandated meditation to perform." "Yes, very important. Can't be missed." Sarah's face fell in disappointment, but she quickly rallied. "Oh, okay, maybe next time then. This was great, though. I can't wait for our next class." As the human bounded away, Gloater oozed closer to the coach. There isn't going to be a next time, is there, Coach?" It burbled hopefully. Zor's eye stalks drooped in defeat. "I'm afraid there will be, Gloater. The exchange program lasts for an entire solar cycle." A collective groan rose from the assembled students. but fear not. The coach continued, his tentacles gesticulating wildly. I have a plan. We'll simply have to adjust our curriculum to better suit our new classmates' abilities. 6427 chimed in curiously. What do you mean, coach? A sly look crept into Zor's multiple eyes. Well, if we can't beat the Deathworlder at physical challenges, we'll simply have to change the game. Next class, we're going to focus on interpretive dance. The alien students exchanged confused looks. Think about it, Zor continued, his excitement growing. No strength required, no speed, no endurance, just pure artistic expression. Let's see the human try to outperform us in that. A ripple of hopeful murmurs spread through the class. Maybe, just maybe, they had found a way to level the playing field. Little did they know that Sarah Chen had been the star of her high school's dance team back on Earth. But that, as they say, is a story for another gym class. As the students filed out, still buzzing with a mixture of terror and anticipation, Coach Zor allowed himself a small, tentacle-curling smile. He may have lost this battle, but the war was far from over. After all, there were still many, many more gym classes to come. And who knows, maybe by the end of the solar cycle, they might even survive a game of zero-G dodgeball with the Deathworlder. Probably not, but hey, a coach can dream, can't he? The next day dawned bright and early on the Galactic Federation High School campus, well, as bright and early as it could get in the perpetual twilight of the gas giant they orbited. Sarah Chen bounced down the hallway, her anti-grav backpack barely touching her shoulders as she hummed a Jolly Earth tune. Hey guys, she called out cheerfully to a group of alien students huddled near their lockers. The group consisted of Gloater, Zix 427, and a new face, a tall, willowy being with leaves for hair and bark for skin. The aliens flinched collectively, then tried and failed to look nonchalant. Greetings, Earth. Sarah Zix 427 chimed, its crystalline structure vibrating nervously. We were just discussing today's physical education class. Sarah's eyes lit up. Oh yeah, Coach Zork said something about a surprise activity today. Any idea what it might be? Gloater burbled anxiously. We have been informed that today's class will focus on interpretive dance. The human's grin, if possible, grew even wider. No way. That's awesome. I love dance. The alien students exchanged panicked looks. This was not going according to plan. The tree-like being, who hadn't spoken yet, finally rustled its leaf hair and asked, You do? Sarah nodded enthusiastically. Oh yeah, I was on the dance team back on Earth. Ballet, jazz, hip-hop, you name it. This is going to be so much fun. As Sarah bounded away towards the gym, the aliens slumped in defeat. Well, Gloater bubbled morosely, there goes our last hope. The tree being swayed gently, its bark creaking in what might have been a sigh. Perhaps we should simply accept our fate. The Deathworlder is clearly superior in all physical pursuits. Zix 427 chimed in, its facets glinting determinedly. Now, let's not give up hope just yet. There's still a chance that the Earth being's dancing style will be too aggressive for the judges' tastes. With that small comfort, the alien students made their way to the gym, each step feeling like a march to their doom. Coach Sorix was waiting for them in the anti-gravity gymnasium, his tentacles wrapped around what appeared to be some kind of audio device. All right. You quivering masses of mostly sentient matter, today we embark on a journey of artistic expression through the medium of interpretive dance. Sarah, standing at the front of the group, could barely contain her excitement. The rest of the class looked like they were about to face a firing squad. Now Zorx continued, his eye stalks swiveling to fix each student with a stern gaze. I want you all to let your bodies interpret the music. Feel the rhythm in your various appendages, or lack thereof. Let your inner artist emerge. With a dramatic flourish of his tentacles, the coach hit play on the audio device. What emerged could only loosely be described as music. It was a cacophony of whale songs, crystal chimes, and what sounded suspiciously like a garbage disposal. The alien students began to move, each in their own unique way. Gloater oozed and bubbled in a vaguely rhythmic pattern. Zix 427 vibrated at various frequencies, creating a light show that was actually quite impressive. The tree being swayed gently, its leaves rustling in time with the beat. And then there was Sarah. The human launched into a routine that defied description. It was part ballet, part breakdancing, and part something that looked like it might summon elder gods if performed under a full moon. She leapt, she spun. She contorted her body in ways that made the alien students wonder if humans had bones at all. Coach Zorx watched in horror as Sarah's dance grew more and more elaborate. She incorporated elements from her surroundings, using the anti-gravity fields to perform impossible flips and twirls. At one point she even grabbed Gloater, who burbled in terror, and used the amorphous alien as a prop in a particularly complex move. As the music reached a crescendo, or what passed for one in this interstellar cacophony, Sarah launched into her grand finale. She spun rapidly, using the variable gravity fields to build up speed, then launched herself high into the air. For a moment she hung suspended at the apex of her jump, her body forming a perfect star shape. Then, just as gravity began to reassert itself, she tucked into a tight ball and began to spin faster and faster. She whirled, becoming a blur of motion. The alien students watched in awe and terror as she descended, still spinning, towards the gym floor. At the last possible second, Sarah unfurled from her spin, landing in a perfect splits position just as the final notes of the music faded away. A stunned silence fell over the gym. Coach Zorx's eye stalks were tied in knots, his tentacles hanging limply at his sides. That was awesome, Sarah finished for him, bouncing to her feet with a huge grin. I've never danced to music like that before. It really gets your blood pumping, or whatever you guys have instead of blood. The alien students were still frozen in shock. Gloater had fainted again, forming a gently quivering puddle on the floor. 427's crystalline structure was vibrating so intensely that small fractures were starting to appear. The tree being had shed most of its leaves in sheer terror. Sarah, oblivious to the pandemonium she'd caused, turned to the coach. So what's next? Do we get to choreograph our own routines? Or maybe a dance battle? Coach Zorx's mandibles clicked rapidly as he tried to form words. Finally, he managed to stammer out, I think that will be quite enough for today. Class dismissed. As the shell-shocked alien students began to file out of the gym, Sarah's voice piped up again. Hey coach, I had an idea. You know how you mentioned zero-G dodgeball yesterday? Well, I was thinking, what if we combine that with the dance? Like a zero-G dance dodgeball tournament. Wouldn't that be awesome? The mere thought was enough to send Gloater into another fainting spell. 427 emitted a high-pitched chime of distress, and the tree being lost its last remaining leaves. Coach Zorx's eye stalk swiveled wildly, looking for any escape from this nightmare. That's an interesting idea, Earth student. Perhaps we should discuss it. Never. Yes, never sounds good. Sarah's face fell for a moment, but she quickly rallied. Okay, well, if you change your mind, let me know. This was super fun, though. Can't wait to see what we do next class. As the human bounded away, still full of energy, Coach Zorx slumped to the floor, his tentacles curling around him like a protective cocoon. Coach? It was 427, its voice uncharacteristically timid. What are we going to do? The Earth being seems capable of excelling at any physical activity we devise. Zorx's eye stalks emerged slowly from his tentacle cocoon. I don't know, he admitted. In all my cycles of teaching, I've never encountered a student like this. Gloater, who had partially reconstituted itself, burbled morosely. Perhaps we should simply admit defeat. Clearly the Deathworlder is superior in all aspects of physical education. The coach's eye stalk suddenly shot up, a look of determination spreading across his alien features. No, he said firmly. We are not defeated yet. We simply need to think creatively. The remaining students gathered around, curiosity overcoming their lingering terror. Listen closely, Zorx said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. I have a plan, but it will require the cooperation of every student in this class. Are you with me? The aliens exchanged nervous glances, then nodded or burbled or chimed or rustled in agreement. Excellent, the coach said, a sly look creeping into his multiple eyes. Now here's what we're going to do. As Coach Zorx outlined his plan, the alien students felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they had found a way to level the playing field with the indomitable human. Little did they know that Sarah Chen had overheard every word of their scheming. Thanks to the super-sensitive hearing that came standard with being from a death world. But she didn't mind. In fact, she was thrilled. Finally, a real challenge, as she made her way to her next class. Sarah couldn't help but grin. This exchange program was turning out to be even more exciting than she'd hoped. She couldn't wait to see what the aliens would come up with next. After all, in Sarah's mind, it wasn't about winning or losing, it was about pushing limits, trying new things, and most importantly, having fun. And if that fun happened to involve defying the laws of physics and terrifying a gym full of aliens, well, that was just a bonus. The Galactic Federation High School didn't know it yet, but their physical education program was about to undergo a revolution, a human-shaped, gravity-defying, dance-battling revolution. And Sarah Chen couldn't be more excited. As she rounded the corner, heading towards her xenobiology class where she was equally terrifying to her classmates, but for entirely different reasons, Sarah allowed herself a small chuckle. "Bring it on, Coach Zork," she muttered under her breath. Bring it on. The adventure was just beginning, and if there's one thing Deathworlders know how to do, it's how to make things interesting. Very, very interesting indeed.